When major international events take place, like the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting later this week, there is also quite a lot of attention on how guests are received. What kind of food and drinks will be served and what kind of gifts will be offered? Today, we want to delve into the cultural meaning behind the hospitality extended to visiting APEC leaders. We'll do that with David Tizzard, Professor of Korean Studies at Seoul Women's University and Hanyang University, who is now connected with us. Hello, Professor Tizzard.
Hello, Professor.
Good afternoon. It's great to see you again, and thank you for such a warm welcome, Soa.
We are very happy to have you on the program, and we are now going to talk about that hospitality here in Korea. So preparations are in full swing in Korea to welcome guests ahead of the APEC Leaders Meeting. So, Professor Tizzard, what are some distinctive features of Korea's hospitality culture?
There are many, and Korea is an incredibly warm and welcoming country, so much so that after coming here 20 years ago, I still haven't left. I've been completely besotted by the hospitality. One of the ways I'll explain this, the first example that I'll give, is that if you look at some of the religious texts from around the world, if you open the Bible, the first line is, "In the beginning God created the heaven and earth." If you open the Quran, "In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful." Now, if you open up the Confucian Analects, the book that defines Confucianism, the first line is nothing about God or creation. It's, "Is it not a great pleasure to study?" which completely explains Korean culture. And the second line is, "And is it not a great pleasure to welcome your friends who have come from afar?" So it's literally embedded in this philosophy, this ideology that has gripped Korea. It's probably the most Confucian country in the world. And the second line of that book says, "Please be nice to foreigners when they come and visit you." And that's completely true. When people do come to Korea, around the world now, we're experiencing the idea that we need to be more culturally sensitive. We need to be more aware and cognizant of sensitivity around certain issues. And in some countries, the idea of cultural appropriation is very strong. You have to be careful what you wear, what you do, and what you say. In Korea, it's a little bit different, not necessarily good or bad, but just different. Because if you come here, Korean people will expect you to wear the hanboks, to sing the songs, to eat the food. And if you can even utter just one 감사합니다 and 안녕하세요, something like that, Korean people will explode with joy that you are embracing their culture. So it's very warm, it's very welcoming, and perhaps underpinning all of these, the third thing I'll mention, is the gift-giving culture of jong. It's sometimes described by people as an invisible hug. It's the thing that connects people together. And if, just by coincidence today, I bought some gifts for some men doing some work on the outside of my house, I went to the local bakery and the owner there gave me some free bread today. So the jong culture is still alive and well here in South Korea.
Well, let's stick to the topic of gifts, because as a gift for the APEC leaders, a Korean fortune pollack, or bugeo in Korean, has been chosen. Now, what's the symbol behind this ornament, or the pollack in Korea, and why do you think this particular has been chosen as a souvenir for the global guests?
It's a wonderful question, Walter, and I'm trying very gently to lift one up in front of you here. It makes a wonderful noise, a little bit like a cat or something like this. But we have one of these on the front of our house as well. Now, this bugeo, it's a symbol of good fortune, and it's primarily used to ward off evil spirits. It's quite interesting to me because a fish doesn't seem particularly strong. You know, if you're going to put a symbol of something outside your door to protect from evil spirits and ward them off, put a dragon, put a tiger, put a guy with a sword, something like this. But Korean people put a fish, and they put this pollack. It has its eyes open and its mouth open. This means it's always on guard. It's always alert. So I love the fact that they've chosen this rather humble animal to symbolize protection. People will often put it over their door. They'll often also give them when new businesses are open or if there's a new establishment done, and they will hang them there, sometimes with the bell, sometimes without. Sometimes it might actually, in the past, obviously, it would have been a real dried pollock that they put there. You can see the images. But a lot of the time now, it would just be a wooden one. You can buy them at temples around the country. They're rather cheap, and they just add a little bit of color. Now, I do really like the fact that they have chosen this as a gift because it's so unique to Korea. And if I'm going to be 100% honest, it's not the most beautiful animal. It's not the cutest of thing. It doesn't have these big doe eyes or fur that you can stroke. But I love that they've chosen it because it is uniquely Korea and it's steeped in the heritage. If you go to the temples or if you go to places where you find traditional decorations, you will actually see even very large, big fish there, often beside bells. And this is to awaken things and protect. If you ever watch any of the movies that are related to shamanism in South Korea, like The Wailing or Pamyo, Exhuma, they'll always have these kind of sounds going off in the background. And that's the fish watching over the people of the country, and it will watch over the leaders of APEC when they come as well. How about that?
Well, listening to your explanation, I really think that it's a good idea to have this pollack as a gift, and also the idea that it is looking over us. If we do have a dragon at the front door, maybe it could be intimidating to guests, but having a pollack, a humble little pollack, I think might be even a better idea. And now let's talk about the banquet menu. So speaking about pollack, which you can also eat.
Yes.
So that's my transition to the next question. So the banquet for the world leaders is said to be composed of dishes that represent Gyeongju and also Korea. And Chef Edward Lee, who was the runner-up to the very popular Netflix survival program Culinary Class Wars, he is in charge of this banquet. So Professor Tizzard, what do you think are some requirements or maybe characteristics that such a banquet should possess in Korea?
It was a seamless and wonderful transition. So, and I'm just curious, I wonder what dragon tastes like.
Ooh.
We know what pollack tastes like, but there's one for us to ponder. What should be represented on this Korean banquet? Actually, before we started this segment, I was having a great time watching some of the images that you were showing because they really represented a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about now. I guess the first one is you have this seasonality and the regional foods are very important. That's a big part of Korea. You go to certain parts of the country and you expect certain foods. On one coast, you'll have crabs in seasoning. On the others, you'll have hwangtae and myeongtae and different types of dried fish. The kimchi is different all over the country. So that regional aspect will be really important, as we're in autumn now, and so will the seasons, and that'll be part of it. But the point that I really want to make here is related to obangsek. Now, these are the 5 colors, and if you've ever looked at a Korean dish of bibimbap, where you put all of those things together, or if you've ever seen a table laid out for sort of Chesa or Chale or ancestor worship, when people do these ceremonies, you will notice that there's a great array of colors in there. It's almost like a rainbow. Now, modern nutritionists say that you need to eat a variety of colors in your diet to get all the ingredients, and Korean people, they've known about this for a long time. The obangsek, it refers to the 5 colors. And these 5 colors also represent 5 directions and 5 different food groups. So black is the north, blue and green is the east, red is the south, and white is the west, and you have the yellow in the center. And when they lay out these dishes, and you'll notice the different colors of the radishes, the kimchis, the vegetables, the roots, the meat, the fish, the egg, the rice. I'm hungry even just talking about all of this. It's tied in. They might not be doing it consciously anymore. It might just be this subconscious element of culture that's coming through, but it's drawn from this idea of obangsek, the 5 colors. And I guess just one last thing about this, which is you have Edward Lee. This adds a little bit of symbolizing Korea's global reach now. We've seen the huge success of K-pop Demon Hunters, and that sort of almost a cross-cultural communication. We know Remy's going there to speak, but having a Korean American there, having people that represent this Hallyu and this Korean wave, I think that really adds a beautiful fusion of tradition, culture, and heritage, and the modern manifestation of Korean culture around the world.
I wish I could jump over there just for the banquet.
Yeah, so I recently watched a video with Edward Lee in his new restaurant, and if that is anything to show some of his dishes, Yes, the people at APEC are going to be in for a very big treat. Now, talking about food, the official banquet liquor has also been selected, and it's makgeolli, which is obviously a very beautiful tasting liqueur. So it won the award at the Korean Traditional Liquor Competition this year. Now, what is the current perception of traditional Korean alcoholic beverages, example like makgeolli, soju, etc.? And also, what are some characteristics of Korea's way of hosting guests with drinks?
You guys go for the food and I'll take the makgeolli. How about that? That sounds like a good deal to me. And the way you described it, Walter, was fantastic. Something like a beautiful tasting liqueur. Yeah. It's makgeolli. What's really interesting, this traditional rice wine that's in Korea, and it comes in all different varieties, doesn't it? It comes in all different flavors, different styles, different alcohol percentages. It's a wonderfully versatile drink that's available for everyone. If you speak to people of a certain generation, you know, people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and you mention that you're going to drink makgeolli, they'll look at you and say, be careful, that will give you a headache. That's some stuff because of the way it used to be brewed. So it had this reputation of being a very, a drink of the working class almost, a drink of the farmers, something you would feel rough the next day. However, the processes and the gentrification, the modernization of this country means that now you can enjoy a couple of bottles of makgeolli, you know, within reason, and you'll feel fine the next day because the fermentation, the processes have all changed. And now it's actually quite classy. You can go to bars in Gyeongju and you can order an old-fashioned and someone next to you can order a martini and then a makgeolli to go with it. So it's really interesting how it's become a trendy drink. It's something that you associate with the hip and the Instagram stories. And the Korean drinking culture, well, you know, it's long been said, but that if you want to get things done in Korea, sometimes it's not just about breaking bread, but it's about pouring a drink for somebody and accepting a drink for somebody. This is a very high context culture, and people do like to share alcohol with each other. We even see it during the North-South meetings with, I remember President Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un, they were going at it as well together over alcohol. So it's something that's embedded very traditionally in the Korean culture, and whether it's soju or makgeolli, it's very warm, it's very welcoming, and when it's done within reason and carefully, it's great at bringing people together.
Right. Professor Tizzard, we have time for a brief last question. Now, while the APEC leaders are in their conference halls, the spouses of the 21 heads of state are going to make tours such as to Bulguksa Temple and UNESCO heritage site. So what would be a recommendation from you, Professor Tizzard, when it comes to a cultural experience?
Let's just be a little bit strange for the last one then, and I would recommend that they get a 중명사진. They get an official photo done in Korea, and I say this to my international students sometimes because you can have photos of yourself taken all around the world, but if you get one of those photos done in Korea, it's not as if you're going to look Korean all of a sudden, but you get put through that filter of Korean lookism and beauty standards, and it comes out and you'll look at it and you go, oh, wow, I never knew that I could, I would, or perhaps I should look like that. So while they're going to the temples and finding their inner peace and inner penguin, also have a look what they might look on the outside by getting one of those photos done here, and it's something they'll be able to take with them and show their friends and family.
Great tip, Professor Tizzard. Thank you very much for your insights today, which gave us a better understanding of Korea's hospitality culture. And with that, I want to say 감사합니다.
Thank you, Professor.
감사합니다.
And thank you, Walter, as always. We're going to have you back here tomorrow.
See you very soon.